A couple weeks ago, I set up this jar using nothing but water and mud from a rain puddle. That's it, nothing more added. At first it was just a cloudy mess, so I sealed it up and left it alone for over 2 weeks. Today, I opened it for the first time, and what I found honestly blew me away. This jar isn't just alive, it's packed with insects, bizarre little creatures, all doing things that seem almost unreal. There are even ruthless predators in here, hunters that wipe out prey the second they get a chance. But to understand how we got here, let's rewind to day 1. Back then, this ecosystem was just mud and water in a jar. But don't let the simplicity fool you. Life was already in motion. Aquatic beetles clung to a twig, worms started creeping out of the darkness. The water stayed completely opaque for days. It wasn't until around day 15 that it finally cleared enough to show what had been hiding inside. Now it's crystal clear. You can see straight through it. And everywhere you look, microorganisms are swimming. Literally thousands of them. The amount of life crammed into this jar is unreal. The first thing that grabbed my attention was a group of insects that looked almost out of place. These are diving beetles. They're a nightmare to film because they move so fast. But what makes them really fascinating is how they breathe underwater. See that bubble at the tip of its abdomen? That's its air tank. It surfaces for a quick gulp of air, traps it under its wing covers, and carries that bubble down so it can breathe while it hunts. Simple, efficient, and incredibly effective. And they're not the only aquatic beetles in here. Up at the surface, there's a larger species clinging to anything it can, like that tiny piece of wood. That's when I realized something was wrong. This species can breathe underwater, but it can't actually swim. It needs something to hold on to. If I did nothing, it would eventually drown. So I added a branch that reached all the way down toward the bottom. It worked instantly. Within seconds, the beetles grabbed the wood and started climbing down into the depths, searching for food. This might be the most densely populated jar I've ever made. The second I turn on the light, a swarm of tiny animals rushes upward. The most common by far are copepods. These little crustaceans are basically the foundation of the whole food web. Almost everything else in here depends on them. Those small sacs you see near the bottom, those are egg clusters. The females carry the eggs until they're ready to hatch, then release them into the water. But there's something even smaller, and even more abundant than copepods. See that pale, floating cloud? Wondering what that is? Those are rotifers. Compare one to a copepod. They're microscopic. They're easily the smallest organisms my camera can reliably capture. If a single drop of this water went under a microscope, who knows what else we'd find. There's no way to document every species living in here. You've got flatworms like these. I don't think they're planarians, but they glide across the glass in a similar way. At one point, I spotted 3 together. Apparently, they don't mind sharing space. Clinging to the glass, you can also see an aquatic mite moving slowly along. And around it are colonies of strange white dots. In a minute, you'll see exactly what that is, and how it can throw the whole jar out of the balance. Let's head deeper. One of the most common animals here is impossible to miss: Ostracods. These tiny crustaceans are everywhere. Think of them like mini clams that can swim, sealed inside a little shell while they filter the water for food. They'll happily eat rotifers and other microorganisms. But something stood out right away. A lot of ostracods have a white growth attached to their shells. And small snails like these are completely coated too. Actually, almost everything is coated. The glass, the corners, pretty much the entire jar. That white layer is Vorticella. It's a touch-sensitive protozoan. Watch what happens the moment something brushes it. It snaps back instantly. When it spreads, it can become a real problem. It restricts movement, and it can even interfere with breathing. The good news is some ostracods are grazing on it. So what you're seeing is a constant tug of war just to stay alive. This jar isn't only made up of tiny drifting specks. Next to them, some creatures are huge, like this aquatic worm sliding across the glass, bulldozing through the Vorticella like an icebreaker through sea ice. So where did these larger worms come from? And why didn't I notice them earlier? Because under the mud, there's a whole different world. These are tunnels built by worms and larvae for shelter and feeding. They're made from sediment and the remains of dead organisms. Some larvae anchor themselves to the glass near the surface, waiting to finish transforming into mosquitoes. It's a risky stage. They have to expose themselves. This worm knows leaving its tunnel is dangerous, and that decision is about to cost it everything. In every ecosystem on Earth, animals eat other animals, and at the top, there's always a top predator. In this jar, that title goes to this larva. It's the deadliest hunter in here. Anything that moves in front of it can become food. Ostracods are an easy snack, though their shells make them tricky to handle. And those jaws don't just grab, they inject venom that paralyzes the victim. But it knows there are better meals than ostracods. It won't take long to find one. The moment it locates the first tunnel, it understands exactly what it means. A high-protein meal is hiding inside. It tries to force its way in, but it can't fit. The worm inside senses trouble and slowly peeks out. Then something weird happens. An ostracod lands right on the predator's tail. It's almost like pure luck, a split-second distraction that gives the worm an opening. The worm starts digging a backup exit. But the predator isn't giving up that easily. It flicks off the ostracod and waits, completely still, for the worm to show itself again. After a long, tense pause, it happens. The instant the worm emerges, the larva strikes. It yanks the worm away from the tunnel so there's no way back. At that point, there's nothing the worm can do. It can only endure as it's eaten alive. In the end, all that's left is an empty husk. And this predator isn't alone. More of them patrol the jar. If you were a worm in here, this would be the worst place possible. Hunters everywhere, ready to grab you the moment you slip up. This little jar is a world of its own. Thousands of living things interacting, each filling a role. Together, they create a self-sustaining ecosystem. The craziest part is where it all came from. A simple rain puddle in a parking lot. Just days later, the sun dried it out completely. That entire world disappeared overnight. Except for this tiny piece of it, sealed inside the jar. It's a reminder of how fast life can come and go in these temporary ecosystems. If you enjoyed this video, you'll probably like the next one too, where I made a similar jar using swamp mud. A completely different set of creatures showed up, including some seriously impressive predators. Thanks for watching.